Okay, so along with the skill of empathy and what Brett has been talking about, um, this is a kind of a formula that you can use with your children to help, show empathy. And I think it helps to have some steps. Um, and this formula is not going to change the limits that we're setting with kids, but it's going to help them accept those limits that we have. And so, the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to just describe what you're seeing. So, your face is going like this, and sometimes, a lot of times, kids and adults, we don't realize what our face is doing. Um, and with like younger kids, you can also even use like a mirror, like, hey, come look at what your face is doing. What does it look? It looks like it's mad. And you're naming the feeling, like, oh, you seem sad or you seem mad. It's good to kind of use a questioning tone if you can. So then if you're, saying that they're feeling a certain way and they don't agree with you, they can correct you and you can really kind of understand what they're feeling. And then the next step is acknowledging. So if you don't know what happened, you can say, oh, something happened, if you don't know, or, you were hoping for this. And that example on there, you were hoping mommy would stay. That's a lot with like separation. Maybe you're dropping your kid off at daycare and, they're crying and stuff like that. A lot of the times the teachers will come in and, oh, you're hoping your mom would stay. You can handle this. Come here, and then they'll show them, some love and some care to make that transition easier. So that's acknowledging. And then if you see over on the left-hand side, it kind of shows how each of those align with our brain states. And so you're going from the survival, that describing, to the naming, which is in the emotional, and then to acknowledging, and that's the problem-solving state. So this is kind of a tool that you can use. And just like everything else that we've been talking about, it's good to work on one thing at a time, and maybe this is your thing for the week that you wanna work on.
And I think as you're talking about that, Beth, in the last couple times we've talked, is sometimes writing these down, so you might encounter a situation with your kid where maybe you didn't handle that well, and that's a good learning opportunity for you to grow from. And I think sometimes I will write down this DNA process. I might have encountered a situation with my own son and not handled it well, and then I'll be like, okay, here's next time, here's what I can say and do differently. And writing it down just kind of puts it in memory, or even practicing it, put it in memory, so that way the next time that occurs, because this can be just as automatic as the current empathy styles that we are old patterns, and we just want to replace them. So this slide kind of just talks a little bit about um, um, understanding where kids are on the brain state model, and how we can move them up and down, or up to the point where we can assist them with just being able to be ready to learn. Um, and so as an example, so on the bottom of the slide, it says, a child is hiding behind you. And so if a kid's displaying a behavior, you can say, okay, what state are they in? Are they in the safety state? Are they in the connect state, or are they in the executive functioning state, or the problem solving state? And so if a kid's hiding behind you, that's probably, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Beth, is my assumption is that it's a safety state. And
Yep.
so how do we, yeah, and,
Yep.
how do we show it and help them do that? So so with that, you could be like, okay, so if you use the describe, name, and acknowledge, you could say, oh, I see that your body's hiding behind me. You seem scared. And then you could acknowledge. I'm not for sure exactly what I would acknowledge in that situation, because maybe somebody new came into the room, and you could be like, oh, somebody's new is in the room that you don't know. Would you like me to introduce you to them? So you're kind of walking them through that. Um, and then once you're connected with the kid, so if you move them up, so then now they're going from safe to be like, okay, I'm connected. I understand. You understand where I'm at with this emotion. And now the problem solving part comes in is, oh, would you like me to introduce you to them? And so um, hopefully I did that correctly there. um,
Yep.
so, so let's think about a kid who maybe, like, this happens a lot. Kids will tell you to shut up or stop talking to me or leave me alone. Um, so if we're to think about what state they're probably in the safety state. Like they're having this emotional reaction. They're on the ground level, and so you would say, I noticed that you're using. Uh, well, I'm thinking about if a kid's showing you they're mad and angry, you could say, "Oh, I can see that from your face because it's going like this," and you could like mimic what they were doing. That you seem mad at me because I didn't let you watch your favorite show. Um, so you're connecting with the kid. You understand that they're on the ground level. You're connecting with the kid, and you're trying to help them move up from being in the safety, the fight, flight, or freeze into this where you can connect with them, which then you can problem solve with them. And just as an example for problem solving, I might eventually teach the child, be like, wow, you're mad that I changed this channel. You could say, Dad, I was watching that. Could you please turn that back? Or, if it's bedtime and you have to turn the TV off because you want your kid to go to bed, they could still use those words, but we can reinforce that of kind of saying, well, right now it's bedtime. And I understand that you're really sad. Here, let's go read a book together, moving on beyond that. Trying to think, there's a couple other examples here. So let's say, right now, as parents are doing schoolwork at home, kids might say, why do I have to do my schoolwork? I really don't want to do my schoolwork. And so they're really on the, so where are they at? Are they in the safety, or are they in the connection, or are they in the problem solving? And in that situation, so it definitely would not say they're probably in the safety, but they're probably in the problem solving, where they're kind of being like, I don't understand why I have to do this. Maybe this is not fair. But we can still do the describe, which is, I hear you saying that you don't really understand why you want to do the schoolwork. I notice, sorry, describe. So, because you can describe or what you're hearing, you seem like you're frustrated that we have to do lots of schoolwork. I wonder if you need some help, or I wonder if we need a break, or you seem like you might need a break. I do that right, Beth?
Yep.
So I hope
Yep.
so.
You got it.
And even for me, this is not always easy because here I'm on the slide doing this, but in real life, it happens so much faster. And so even I have to step back and write it down or think about it and try and plan my approach a little bit differently, because it's not my parenting style the way that I grew up. It's not what I lived with for 18, 25 years. And so just food for thought there.
Okay, so the next couple slides are the handouts that go with what we're talking about today. And so this one is going over what empathy looks like at each developmental stage. So when they're babies, I kind of just pulled some things out of here so you could see it a little better. When they're infants, they're really feeling the emotions of others. And I think I've talked about this before, but when I had my daughter, if I was upset or I was stressed, then she would exhibit stress or she would be crying or things like that. They really feel the emotions from others. When they're between 1 and 6, um, they begin to separate others upset from their own. So they're starting to separate that out a little bit. And then 6 to 9, they begin to recognize if, what they're offering in empathy is actually helping the other person. And they're able to kind of distinguish that. And then when kids get to the 9 to 11 age range, they're really eager to support causes or events that impact groups of people. So, like natural disasters. I mean, even with the current state with COVID-19, you see a lot of students and kids out there doing some really great things, whether it's making masks or gathering donations or things like that. You really see that. And then 11 and up, that's when, if we have a good groundwork laid, they are developing that mature empathy. And so they're able to help people, fix an issue that they might be having without taking on that upset as their own. So that's developing that mature empathy. Okay, and then these are the handouts that kind of outline everything that we've talked about today. And so that first one on the left is kind of talking about what Brett was discussing and kind of what mature empathy looks like, and then what empathy that we might exhibit that's not really empathy, the gushing with sympathy, fixing it, offering humor, those things that he was talking about. And then on the right, that reiterates that DNA process that we were talking about. And once you kind of go through that, that's when you can get to that stuff that Brett was talking about, next time, try this, that kind of thing. It really becomes an opportunity to learn. And if you guys want these handouts, you can let us know. We typically teach this session in class, but we're doing it online this time due to the COVID-19 and not being able to meet with you. So if you do want this, let us know.